Wow.
Beautiful.
MLS best ever center back.
Come on, there's a lot of truth in it.
There is a lot of truth in it, Basti. Welcome, man. Welcome to Major League Journeymen. You know one of your favorite players ever, Mr. Alan Gordon here. I don't know if you can see what he's wearing, but it's very pertinent to what we're going to talk about. Can you see that?
No, but don't tell me he's wearing a lederhosen. No, he's now I see him in jersey. Yeah,
you were expecting me to be wearing nothing, weren't you?
Or lederhosen with nothing on underneath.
This is my favorite thing I ever got in my whole career, baby. Right here.
Basti,
yeah.
I just want to say, man, welcome to the pod, Major League Journeyman. You are our first official guest. We wanted it to be someone special. We wanted it to be someone who we think could bring some excellent insight into the soccer world, especially since you played in MLS. You know me, you know Alan, Mr. Gordini. You don't know Mr. Dan Gargan. He's our part of the tripod here. Co-host extraordinaire. He played in MLS for a long time, won an MLS Cup with Gordo with the Galaxy. But yeah, man, we just wanted to start off this pod. I don't know how quickly or how much you're on social media or how fast news travels over to Munich, where you are right now. The Chicago Fire had a difficult outing against Nashville SC a few days ago. Yours truly, we had a good game. We won the game 3-0. It's just come out recently that the Chicago Fire have actually fired their head coach, Ezra Hendrickson. First of all, did you know about that? And second of all, what are your thoughts on that as a Chicago Fire ambassador, which I think you are?
First of all, it's your responsibility why the coach got sacked because of your sneaky way to get the penalty against the Fire. So that was the key. Actually,
clever,
for the match.
hey, clever. I think you texted me after the game. You were very impressed with how clever I was to win the penalty.
He is watching.
You see experienced play, but no, I didn't know the fact that the coach got sacked. So, but obviously it's not going really well for the Fire this season again. So I spoke to one of my friends seriously, not a few days ago, and he said, "Look, what will happen is usually first the coach will get sacked maybe, and then later on maybe a sporting director. So let's see." But you know it maybe a little bit better than me, but obviously I follow the Chicago Fire soccer club, and you don't really see the club going in the right direction at the moment.
You know what they need?
I have to agree, man. I have to agree. And it was sad. Sorry, Gordo. I was just going to say, like, I feel like it's weird timing. They clearly heavily rotated their roster against us for the league game. They're putting all their eggs, I think, in the U.S. Open Cup basket. They have a little derby that they're starting up with St. Louis City right down the road. And so I think, you know, they were really going all in on the Open Cup. And so the result against Nashville SC obviously was a bad one. It was a bad performance from them, but I do agree it's been a tough start to the season for them. It feels, from my perspective, a little bit harsh, quite honestly. I feel like Ezra, you know, he was still trying to put his stamp on the team a little bit. But I think we know how these things go. I mean, I think that goes against the notion that MLS is this retirement league where there's no accountability. I mean, there's clearly been accountability. There's two coaches today on this Monday, this dark Monday, that have been let go. To both of my former clubs, the Chicago Fire and the New York Red Bulls, sacking their coaches in the same morning. So yeah, man, I think I'll be curious to see. It's our old friend, Mr. Frank Klopas, is taking over as the interim head coach. So I know you know Frank well.
Yes, I know him well as a commentator, actually. More than a coach, but he has experience. But my question to you is, do you think that the roster of the Chicago Fire is good enough to reach the playoffs?
Oh, that's a hard-hitting one. Gordo, do you want to take that one?
Well, if I knew their roster, Basti,
yeah, Gordo, do you know the roster?
Do you know anyone on their roster?
I don't know too much about their roster. It's about as much as I knew when I was actually playing with the Fire, how much I knew the roster. But Basti, let me ask you this. I think what they need is you coaching them. Hey, when we played together, you were constantly on the board. Huge X's and O's guys, X's and O guys, right? Tactical genius. Would you call yourself a tactical genius?
No, but I always believe in making it as easy as possible for the players on the field. And the football, I think, is, of course, like, it's complicated. You have 11 players on the field who have to combine in a way. But there's a certain ritual, I would say. Like, if you have a column, like a right column strength, like in the middle of the team, that's very important to have, like to have a good goalkeeper, center back, midfield player, striker. Was always important for me. But obviously, it comes to the point that you need to have a certain good squad roster, But obviously, you need also players who can make the game easier for the teammates. That was always my motivation when I played football or soccer. When I gave a pass to someone, I wanted to give the pass in a way that my teammate had time, or had a good pass to do something, and that was important for me. So I think that's nowadays in football very important. That's why when I watch the games, I look at those kind of players who pass the ball or make the movements in the right moments, so it's easier for the other teammates.
Hey, do you think it's more important to have a system that the players will buy into, or is it more important for the coach to look at his roster and make the system for those players, to change the system so that those players that he has on his roster can succeed? Because you can't force some players, as we know, right? You can't force me to be fast, right? You can't force some players to do some things that they can't, and putting them in uncomfortable positions. So what would you say, the system, or change your formation and your system to the roster that you have?
You have to see which kind of players you have in the roster, and therefore you build your system. I think system is very important against the ball. When the other team has the ball, to be in a certain shape. With the ball, it changes. For me, it's very important the players in the back line, because they have actually the ball first when they build up the game, and they with their pass, with their movement, they make it easier for players in midfield and strikers. That's why I decided one day to play as a center back, because I wanted to let Dax shine in the midfield and give him the pass in the right moment.
That is the only reason I shined.
No, but I know that Dax always, he said, like, come on, man, play next to me, please. But I said to Dax, I know I love to play next to you because I have someone who has the soccer IQ next to me. But we are actually, we are kind of like, our game depends on the passes we get, from the back. If the ball is too late, like, you can stand 5 seconds and lift your arms and free and free and free. But if the guy in the back doesn't see you and passes you the ball in the moment when you get, what was the name of the New York Red Bulls center back? He always was kicking the players. Next, the guy,
Colin.
Aurelian, Colin.
Was it
Bald
that
head?
guy?
Aaron Long.
They had a lot. Aaron Long. They had
center backs for New York Red Bulls.
They had Tim Parker, the redhead, my fellow redhead.
No,
Basti, you
6.
have a photographic memory, man. Which player? Describe him.
No, it was a midfield player, number 6. Whenever I had a ball, he kicked me in the back. And you remember after the game? Give me another name. It was not Tyler Adams.
Get Statman Jack on this one.
It was the midfielder or center back. I should know this, by the way. Felipe.
Yeah.
Felipe.
Yeah.
It had to be Felipe.
He fought
for
everybody.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It was for sure Felipe. Always kicked you, and he was probably talking about you as well.
Correct. And it's like when you have this moment as a midfield player or number 10, you're free and you wait for the ball in the back, and then the ball comes 5 seconds too late, and this Felipe guy's in your back. It's not enjoyable. So that's why I decided actually to go back as a center back.
Yeah, and I have to say it was very nice for me to see you play in that center back role later on in your career, because part of me hopes to parlay that into the latter part of my career as well. Less running, you know what I mean? In the midfield, a lot of running. Center back, not as much running.
You're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I disagree a little bit, I must say.
Come on.
You know what's? I also thought so, but actually, okay, it's true. First half is definitely the case, but in the second half, I tried to, when the team is a little bit like their legs are not 100% fit, I tried to go in the gaps with the ball. But defending wise, Dax, sometimes you have to do 30-meter sprints back and win the duels. Like that's a little bit tiring, yeah. But okay, in total, I agree with you.
Basti, are you still watching? Are you still watching a ton of MLS? Watching games from the league?
Not consistently, and I watched the highlights. I watched Nashville, I must say, because of Dax, and also CJ Sapong last season, for example, was great. And I actually was following the Chicago Fire a couple of games, but in a way I lost a little bit the faith into the team, into the club. Even if I still say that my time in Chicago was maybe the nicest part in my career, because not only because I like the city and the people over there, also our kids were born there, so there's a lot of connection to Chicago. I really tried in my time at Chicago to care and to learn and also to understand as much as I could, I think. But in the end, you, and not myself only alone, but I think also Dax and some other players were kind of like, we needed a little bit of different help. And that was the problem, I think, at Chicago. And Zlatan, for example, Zlatan. He's, for me, one of my top 3-4 players I played with, But like, he didn't care. Like, he was just frustrated and did whatever. He didn't respect his teammates. For me, it was very important to respect my teammates, Like, I didn't make a difference if someone earns $1 million or like 5,000. That was never for me important. Like,
that was clear, though. That was clear, the way you carried yourself.
You also became the only player in the history of the game to win a World Cup with your club team, right? That was at your introductory press conference, which you handled like a champ. But that started your time with Chicago. It was a major get for the league to get you over here. I'm curious, who did you talk to before you came? Like, do you have a circle of confidants, of people that that you trust from opinions? Like, I played with Frings in Toronto and Friedrich in Chicago. Like, was it Germans? Did you reach out to fellow Germans that played in the league, or are you talking to Beckham and asking him what his opinion was? How did you ultimately get to that decision?
I spoke about it with Franz Beckenbauer once.
Okay.
I know it has been a few years before, but he spoke really well about it. He said great things about also being in America. Obviously, I didn't watch so many games of the MLS before. We had this kind of all-star games with Bayern. I remember once in, I think it was Portland. And I had a conversation with David Beckham once about it. That's also a fact. But I always had, it sounds weird, but there's one journalist, I spoke to him during my Bayern Munich career, and I always said, like, somehow I'm interested to play in the MLS one day. And then 7-8 years later on, I had the chance to play. And look, when I got the offer back in the days when I actually been in Manchester, there were other offers as well, but me and my family, we were straight into Chicago, yeah.
But Basti, I want to know a little bit more about why exactly you made that decision to come to the MLS, because before you, right, in the early days of the MLS, when Beckham came over, some of the old guys that were coming over, They were calling the MLS a retirement league for ex-European players, like superstar players, right? They were calling it a retirement league. However, playing with you and playing with Beckham and playing with guys like that, I know for a fact that guys didn't come over here to just retire and live and be happy. They are still competitive, wanted to win. You were one of the most competitive guys that I played with still late in your career. You wanted to make the team better. You poured everything, right? You poured everything into trying to make us better, right? Every single day. And so I know, and for these guys, they know how serious and what great competitors you guys are. So was there a different motivation? Is it just, a better place to live with your family, or is it to make an impression on a different league in a great country? Like, what can you pinpoint some of those things and why exactly you came over?
For me, it was an opportunity and also a challenge. I knew that Chicago was like on the bottom of the league the 3 seasons before. So I knew maybe it's the case that I'm not playing with the best team straight from the beginning, but I always believe in making a team better, and I tried to give my experience, which I have gratefully got in Europe, and I wanted to bring it into the club, into the players, and in the best way, like on the field. Like, that's for me the easiest language to speak. And I know that sometimes it sounded a little bit, I didn't want it to make too difficult for the players. I wanted them to understand what they are doing. Yeah. And that was my goal in a way. And I tried as hard as I could. I'm a competitor. I like to win. For me, like losing 3 times in a row, I cannot stay positive, which people told me to do. But so that's...
Well, you never had to do that in your career, really, right?
No, it was the first time, like, having a, how you say, winless streak?
Winless streak. Yeah.
Winless streak.
How miserable!
Some long ones.
Adding that into your language, that's no fun. Yeah. Dax, when you're the captain of Chicago Fire, and you hear that Schweinsteiger's coming and Basti's making his way, where does that hit you when you hear that information? And then touch a little bit on what it was like to play with a guy like Basti in the locker room.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe, honestly. I had played with a small player in New York. You guys might have heard of him, named Thierry Henry. World Cup winner, played at the highest level for a very long time. And when I heard that Basti was coming and signing for the Chicago Fire, I got a very similar feeling as I did when I got traded to the Red Bulls. This feeling of elation that I was going to be able to play with a guy who not only had the same experiences, but he was a similar position to me. And so that was, for me, something that was so exciting, because I was a little bit older. I was maybe in my late 20s when I was at the Fire, going into my 30s. And I always looked at it as like, I get this opportunity, this tremendous opportunity to learn from one of the best midfielders in the world, in the game. And so that was something that was very exciting for me. I still remember Basti's first week. It was, maybe a little bit touch and go, a little bit nervy. Like, guys don't really know how to act around a player with that type of stature. And I think me and Basti, we hit it off pretty quickly, especially because we played a similar position on the field. I think we see the game in a similar way. At least I hope I do. I see the game like Basti sees the game. But I want to touch on something that happened that kind of broke the ice for everyone in the locker room. And Basti will remember this story well. I think it's the Peaker story with one of our favorite teammates, Mr. Patrick Doody. There was, you guys know, in Bridgeview is not the nicest setup in the world. There were only 3 stalls for guys to be able to use the bathroom before training and before. And you know how it is. Guys are drinking their coffees in the morning. There's a little bit of time being taken on the toilets, maybe.
You got to clear it out before you get out to training.
Yeah. You can't
be
go
efficient, right?
You can't go to training with a full belly. We'll put it that way. But anyways, there was a secret bathroom, like secret locker room kind of off to the side that Patrick Doody and Jonathan Campbell, two of our teammates, they were the only ones that thought that they knew about it. They had this little weird ritual going where like they had their set times where they would go use the bathroom, and then the other one, Patrick Doody, would go second, and it was like this weird thing they had going.
Dex,
so
were they flipping a coin? Were they flipping a coin?
I don't know.
I
don't know what they were. I don't know what they were doing, but all I know is that one day Patrick Doody, he goes to the stall because he thinks it's his turn, and the stall is closed and it's locked. And he starts knocking on the door, and he's like, "Hey, Johnny Campbell, your time is up. Like, what are you doing during my time? This is my time to use the bathroom." And there's no response, like nothing whatsoever is happening. And all of a sudden, Doody, being the weird guy that he is, decides, all right, I don't know why this guy's ignoring me. I'm going to peek through the crack in the stall and see what's going on. And he peeks through the crack in the stall, and it's Basti there, like, no, it's Basti. Like, what are you doing? Like, leave me alone, man. Like, this is creepy. And so from there on out, we dubbed Patrick Doody the peeker. And that might have happened, like, I don't know, Basti, you can tell me, like, a few days into your time with us, but that broke the ice really well. That was a super weird experience for you, I'm sure. But I just want to know if you remember that story the way that I told it.
I do remember because no, the problem was that all the other usual toilets were occupied. So, but I saw there was this little gym on the back, and I walked in there and I saw the toilets there, so I used it. So, but then Doody came up and he was knocking. But it was a very, very funny story actually. But with Doody, we anyway had more stories than only that one.
Yeah, we did. We had a really, I feel like we had a great locker room, Basti, and I feel like our time in Chicago, especially off the field, I remember vividly when I had my 30th birthday party, and you were only on the team for a month or two at that point, and we had almost the entire team showed up. We had a great night, and I remember when you and Ana showed up to the party, that was really special for me in general, just because, I felt really cool that, Bastian Schweinsteiger came to my 30th birthday party, but also I just think it showed that you really cared and you really wanted to make an effort to integrate yourself into the locker room, and to be that good teammate, that relatable teammate, instead of just, being the guy with the amazing accolades that you had. I'm curious how you found your adjustment to Major League Soccer. It's not an easy league to adjust to. You have players that are coming from college. You have players that don't have a lot of experience in the game, just turning pro. I'm curious how that adjustment was for you, and how you found the locker rooms as compared to when you were at Man United and Bayern Munich.
I actually found it like I really enjoyed it, even going to the Bridgeview, because I know it's not the perfect stadium and not a perfect dressing room, but it kind of, like, I'm not saying that in Manchester or in Bayern Munich, like, I felt like spoiled and whatever, but obviously you have everything there, So I liked it actually in a way that it was not the best stadium. So it has its character, and I like that. Our teams, I really must say, like, also when Alan joined the group, like, he gave us something else, and I like that, to have those different kind of people, players. Obviously, like you said, there are a few, like, they know the league already, a few the rookies, and they didn't know it. But for me, it was just important to talk to everybody the same way. And obviously, I was happy when I had found you with a vision and other players who understand a little bit more. But it didn't make a difference if someone is 16, 17, or 32. For me, it was important. What do I see? Is someone good or not? So that's why I told you, Alan, I don't know if you remember, but I told you once from my perspective, I would have loved to play much more with Alan Gordon, and it was not possible, unfortunately, in a certain way, but there were times where definitely Alan should have started for us, but didn't happen.
Well, I needed one more goal. I got 4 early goals. I needed one more goal for $15,000, right? And they wouldn't play me anymore. And I was playing with a broken back and a broken hip, just by the way. So, hey, this takes me to one thing, Basti. This takes me to one thing. Okay. I told you, this jersey you gave me special. It was very special to me because I enjoyed my time with you and just watching the way that you conducted. But one thing, it's been about 5 years, okay? And you wrote something on the back that has always confused me. And every time I see it, I'm like, what the hell did he mean when he wrote, you called me your sonny boy? You said, Gordo, you are my sonny boy. And then you say something in German, and it has confused me for literally 5 years. And I've been waiting to see you. I'm like, I'm going to see him somewhere like 20 years down the road, and I'm going to have gray hair. I'm going to be like, what does sonny boy mean? I just need to know. So what is my sonny boy? Tell me, explain.
In Germany, I would say to a guy who is a sunny boy, he's the cool guy. He's the one who.
Oh, come on!
Who is the one where the woman goes into a stadium to watch? You know?
Oh my goodness, Basti! We're gonna have to live with this guy's ego for longer than you will. So just please keep that in consideration.
Jack, clip this out. This is all I want. I'm done with the show from now on. Basti just says I'm the coolest guy he ever played with. That's what he said.
I also must say I have a funny story with Alan because when we had the farewell game in Munich, and you came in, I think, minute 75, 80, I don't know, correct me?
He wouldn't play me because he wanted to win the game. He thought we were going to beat Bayern Munich. And he didn't play. I think it was 85th minute, by the way.
Yeah. But you can tell us, what did you try on Manuel Neuer from a distance? Tell us, please let us know. What did you try? I was laughing big time because no one was taking that risk.
Well, this is great because this is Basti's farewell game, okay, and we need to sit here for a minute because this was I think single-handedly the best sporting event I've ever been to. It was purely magical how they honored you, and it was days leading up, and we would go out to training. And you took it so well, but I was pretending like they were cheering for me. Do you remember? They would cheer, and I would wave to them, and they loved it. Right? We were playing 5v2, and I would wave to them, and they would cheer like it was my farewell game because I was going to retire as well. So I just piggybacked on you, and you took it so well. You just laughed and you let me have my fun, which was fantastic. But I was telling Basti, I was like, I'm going to score in my farewell game. I'm going to take my chance. And I got in at the 85th minute. And the first time I got the ball, I just touched it to my left foot and I tried to shoot it through like 4 guys. And I hit some guy right in front of me. It pinged out. And I look at Basti and he's laughing at me. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, dude, I'm not going to go on this field and not have at least one shot. Like that was, I didn't know if I was going to get the ball again because they kept it the whole damn time.
Takes a lot of courage to do that to Manuel Neuer, I must say.
I was going to go for it, man.
Gordo always likes to say that he's had like back and hip issues, but in reality, him trying to shoot on Manuel Neuer from 40 yards out is what broke his back.
I wanted just one.
But to Alan's defense, I remember your goal against Orlando. You remember?
Yes. You were behind me saying, "Don't shoot, don't shoot."
No. I gave you the pass, and then I was immediately open to give it back to me. And this guy, all of a sudden, he takes the shot and smashes it into the goal. I don't know how many yards it was in the
Gordo,
end.
That's for sure the best goal you've ever scored in your career.
It's the only time I ever scored outside the box. 100%.
Yeah, it is for sure. I remember seeing that goal too, and being blown away that Gordo hit that hard from as deep as he did.
Hey, that was special as well. And we got to talk about the touch. You see, Basti gave me a little bit of luck the day before. Okay, this is a great story. So Pano used to have us do these silly things. I mean, I'm 38 at the time. Basti's like 35, right? And it's 2 grown old men, and we're playing. we would have to stand toe to toe, and we would have to hold hands like this and try to push each other off balance like this. And the first one to get off balance loses. So I was giving him a hip thrust. I was trying to get him off balance by hitting him with my junk. And so I was literally, so we were making fun of it, and we did a little junk tap, if you want to. and we were all laughing because it was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous.
Who wanted to?
Like,
you did?
yeah, so literally, I have a picture. I score this goal, and Bossy's behind me going, no. Yeah, like after I hit it, it's like one of those, don't do it. Oh, yes. And then we go and we give the junk tap in front of everybody. I got a nice picture. It was brilliant, man. Brilliant.
Oh, my God. Basti, so you got Peakers looking in on you, taking a number 2. You got Gordo thrusting his junk at you. What other real memorable moments do you have from your time in Major League Soccer? You got the All-Star game. You guys did do some special things in Chicago. I know that you weren't as successful as you wanted to be, but I'd have to think that 3 years, there's times in there that stick out to you about coming over. What's one thing that kind of still resonates with you now?
I would say the moment, actually, Dex, you remember first season 2017, after 16 matches, we were actually first in the whole league. And then we had I think it was a 2 weeks break or something. I think so.
Yeah.
And I told to the kid, man, take a picture of the standings and frame it because I saw the other teams like New York City or I saw they are actually better than us. But
Yeah.
we had a flow. We were in the flow, and we were winning, and we were top of the league. Unfortunately, we couldn't really hold it. I think we became third. I think in our
third
group.
and 17, yeah,
third. But that was the moment where it was huge, like being first. From the bottom, we came up first position, and I also think that in the last season, we actually had a good team and we could have done much more, especially the last 6-8 matches. I had a feeling like now we are stable, especially against the ball. And if we would have reached the playoffs, I think we would have gone very far.
Yeah, Basti, I agree about that 2017 team. I had a really good feeling about halfway through the season. I don't know if you remember, we played Seattle Sounders on a national TV game, and we won convincingly, and we played really well. And the morale and the vibes were extremely high with that group. And then we lost in the playoffs against my old team, the Red Bulls, who I think deserved to beat us. I mean, they smashed us 4-0, but I think we weren't ready to take that next step. And then we go into 2018, and I think we were all excited, and then we signed Gordo, and then we should have seen what was coming next. The team just completely tanked and went down to the bottom. But for me, my time with Chicago, I'll absolutely remember playing with you and the moment after the Orlando City game where we had a great performance. It was 2019, I believe. It was the last game of the season. We went down to Orlando, we won, and then right after the game was over, you stood up in front of everyone, and you were very emotional, and you announced to the whole group that you were going to retire. And that moment, I still remember that moment deeply, because I could tell how emotional you were. I could tell how sad you were, but I could also see that you really cared, because maybe it wasn't the best ending to your career, right? Being on a team that wasn't successful because you were so used to the heights of the game. I just want to kind of ask you about your emotions going through retirement, when you knew that you wanted to retire, how you made that decision, because I certainly haven't hit the heights of your career, but I'm the only dinosaur on this podcast who's still playing, having to consider retirement, whether that be at the end of this year or next year. I just don't know yet. And so I'm curious how you came to that decision.
So for me, it was, you have to know, when I was 18, I had always a very, very busy schedule with the national team, with the tournaments, with Bayern. You always play Champions League as well. So it was always very busy. Obviously, you get injuries and stuff as well, but a lot of games happening. But actually, then in Chicago, I felt really good. Like also, my body was feeling good. I haven't had the problems anymore with my knee. But then there was a moment our second son was born, and I had a feeling I want to spend more time with the family. This was one reason. The other reason was also I didn't really feel I didn't really feel that the club is going into the right direction, because I still believe that even with all the rules which the MLS has with the salary cap, you can build a good team. If you know the league, you can build a good team. I mean, you see it with Nashville, for example, where you play right now, in my eyes. And we couldn't really do that, and that made me a little bit sad. And also, I saw in that season that actually we have a team which can definitely beat the best team in MLS, but we were never put together as a team. So not the best 11 we're always playing. I know that the DPs there's a kind of a behind a secret rule they always have to play, but for me, I never understood this kind of thing. And I told you once also, because I see the jersey behind you, Georgi Mihailovic, for example, he was 18, 17 years old, and he was training with us. And I saw him, and you saw him, and you could see like he has football skills, he has the right movements and everything. Of course, he's young, makes his mistakes sometimes, but you could see he could help us. And once I asked, like, why is this guy not playing from the beginning? He could definitely help us. And people said, like, but he's young, he cannot play now. And for me, like I said, when Alan joined us, he was 55 years old, but he still is a good player. I would have put him in a lineup, seriously. And I never understood that. And those kind of small things, they made me a little bit sad or disappointed. And that was also a reason why I actually decided to retire. Yeah, we still love the game. I mean, if Chicago would have gone in the right direction, we would have kept the right players together, there would have definitely be a chance also to keep playing.
I think this is a really weird dynamic. Dax, you're the captain of the Chicago Fire. Basti, you hear the news that Basti's going to come to the team. Okay, we had a similar situation with Landon and Bex when I played with them. In the captain armband. You're wearing the captaincy. I want to hear first how you felt. Did you feel at all? Did you feel obligated to give to give the armband to Basti because of his career, and he was captain of the German national team and also captain of Bayern Munich, all this stuff. I mean, walk me through your mindset. I mean, you had to have thought about it, and then, we can roll that into, how Basti felt. Did he felt he was deserved, or how did you guys talk about that at all?
This is how I know Gordo is like a real media personality right now. Like this is the hard hitting stuff that people want to hear. This is good stuff.
I want to know.
Yeah, it's a good question, buddy.
That's big. You kept it, and he gave it to you and respected you.
I don't know if you remember Basti, but Gordo, you weren't on the team yet, but in 2017, me and Pano, our head coach, our relationship got off to a little bit of a rocky start. In preseason, I wasn't thrilled about, a couple training sessions. I wasn't thrilled about a couple things that were happening. And so me and Pano, right off the bat, we were like kind of butting heads a little bit. And I still remember to this day that he actually made Juninho. He made Junie the captain for, I think, our first game of the season. I think it was in Columbus.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah. And so I don't exactly remember what happened. Juninho might have had like a little knee injury a few games into the season. So then he gave it to me, and then I just kind of had it and wore it for the rest of the season. And I was kind of made the permanent captain. But when Basti came, I actually don't remember. I'm pretty sure we had a conversation about it, but I just don't remember it specifically because for me, the respect level for you and your career was like off the charts. And I've told this story a few times about like the amount of times I've been captain on teams. I've never really cared enough or needed the captain's armband to still do exactly what I was always going to do. I always wanted to try to be a good teammate and a good leader. And I think that just kind of came to me naturally. So if Pano would have come to me and been like, hey, we're going to give the armband to Basti, I would have been like, that's a great idea. Like, no problem. I would have had no issues with it. Basti, I can't remember if we actually had a conversation about it or not. Do you remember how that went?
I remember when I touched down in Chicago, there were like 3 days before we played Montreal at home, and I was training. I got to know the team and everybody, and you and I actually, when I arrived on the day against Montreal, I came into the dressing room and the coaches called me, and I went to their room and they said, "Do you want to be captain?" And I said, "No, I don't want to be captain. I need someone who knows the league, and I think that this guy with the red hairs, he knows the league very well." And I said, like, he has to be the captain, and it's much better to. I don't need the captain armband, like, and I don't know the league 100%. So, and they said okay, and actually, from week to week, I remember I recognized that this is the right decision, and you were the right captain for us 100%. I was super happy to play actually with you as a captain, because you always felt it the right way. Obviously, as you and I, we know sometimes you had this kind of moments where you were maybe too emotional, but I rather have more these players who really you have the desire for the game and want to be the best and want to improve. And that's what I really liked. And that's why I was always happy that you were the captain of the team.
Man, I appreciate that, Basti. That means a lot. Seriously, we're gonna have Jack clip that out as well. Me and Gordo. This is just gonna be. This is just gonna be going back and forth.
Well, that's why that question came to me, because I did see respect. I did see a respect from Basti to you, Dax, and it was. I thought you guys always had a good relationship. You guys played really well together in the middle as well before Basti dubbed himself as the center back, which I always was pissed off about, because that put him further away, that he couldn't pass me the ball. He was trying to get it to the midfielders anyway, but I always felt that respect, and I thought it was very healthy, as somebody of Basti's stature can come in and respect a guy like Dax, which I didn't really all the time, So this is good. It's very refreshing.
Also, I must say, for me, it was very important because I had someone who knows the whole league, the players. So when Dax told me, watch out for this guy's like that. So I knew it's 100% correct. Obviously, I was always analyzing and watching the other teams playing. When we were playing, facing them, I was watching their games as well, just to see. But it was much easier, obviously, to speak to Dax or to the others who knew the league.
That's cool.
Basti, you're like the antithesis of what we were thinking about having on this podcast, and in having 500 appearances for Bayern and being the icon that you are. What's your opinion? What's your opinion on this idea of the journeyman player? You've obviously played with hundreds of us.
Do you know the concept, journeyman? Of
the journeyman player, like, this player that kind of moves from club to club. It's had, for us, we've been discussing, it's had a negative connotation to it, but we don't believe that it's a negative title, and we think that the profile of the player, the need of the player, the impact that they can have in a team to elevate the team, it should be considered a positive. What's your take on it?
Look, for example, my decision I made to move from Munich to Manchester, it was just because my goal was always to win the Champions League with Bayern Munich. That was my dream. That's why I didn't take an offer from other clubs in 2012 or 2010. I wanted, and it was great that we won it with Philipp Lahm, Thomas Müller, players from our youth team, more or less. The fans really could connect really well to the team. But then there was a time when I saw, and also like former players came to me and said, look, you have to play once abroad somewhere, or just from the mentality to see something else.
The experience,
to see a different culture. And I must say the biggest plus I have got, like now after my career, is that I had the chance to play in England and I had the chance to play in America. This opened my mind so much, and it was not only good for me, it was great for Ana and myself to just be together as a couple as well in a different city, different surrounding. And I would suggest every player who has the opportunity to play abroad to do it, because, like I said, I remember when I moved to Manchester United, the first day I spent in a hotel room, and actually I had tears in my eyes because it reminded me so much on my days when I moved from my village to Bayern Munich at the first training.
Uh-huh.
So you're out of your family, you're away from all of them, and it was not easy. But after all, I must say, as a human being, it was the best whatever could happen to me.
It's kind of like what you were saying, Gargs, about how like you're happy that you've been able to like experience so many different cities. Like that's kind of how I feel about it.
Do you think did that move from Bayern to Manchester give you confidence to move from Manchester to Chicago and do it again?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
So you heard it here. Basti is a supporter of the Journeymen.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, obviously, I don't like those players who move like 12 clubs, in a row, like this. So for me, look, when I decided to go to United, I actually wanted really to bring United back to the top. And I remember when Leicester won, it was a season when Leicester got the champion. Yeah. Until February, we were equal with them on position 1. And Louis van Gaal didn't spend so much money, so it was really an opportunity for me. I saw it as a challenge, and it was working. Even I was not playing with Pogba, I was not playing with Ibrahimovic. We didn't have like the best players. I was playing with players like Boswick Jackson, Smalling, Jones, Damian back in the days, Schneiderlein, Fellaini. That was my players around me.
Right.
It was not like later on like bigger players, So I think we did really well there. But
Basti, I have to know, man, who could win? Yeah. Who's winning a header, Gordo or Fellaini?
Look, one story, Gordo. I don't know if you told you the guys that, but we played against, I don't know, Aston Villa. I think first half was not good. And Mourinho, he's in the dressing room and he shouts and he's like, "Okay, guys, from now on, Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, whenever you have the ball, look just forward. You see Fellaini, Ibrahimovic, you play the ball long." We had a similar situation once in Houston, Dex. You remember with Pauno? But
yes.
Anyway, the half starts like I'm completely free in the midfield, like no one around me. I'm like, with Smalling and Jones, you sometimes need to get the ball, away from them. So anyway, I tried to, but they kicked the ball long. And Zlatan got frustrated. He said to me, "But Basti, I know I'm tall. It's not my fault, but I'm tall and big. But my most talent is down there on the feet." He showed me the feet and to play football. I said, "Yeah, I know. You're one of the best, actually, Anyway, minute 88, long ball. Fellaini wins the header to Ibrahimovic, chest, boom, goal, 1-1. So in the end, it was working.
And it worked.
Yes, but
not to dive too deep into the Chicago Fire here, but before you came to the Fire, you were with United, and you've been obviously a leader every single place that you've been, Basti. That seemed like it was a little bit of a challenge for whatever reason, and I'm interested to hear, from your standpoint, from your perspective, going through some of that adversity. I mean, it's obviously well documented. Mourinho sends you down to train with the reserves. Like I was looking back through notes, and I think maybe in 2005, Munich sent you back down to the reserves at some point after you had played for a few years with the first team. What was that experience like for you at Manchester United after the career you've had with Bayern Munich to then be in a position with obviously an iconic coach for an iconic club? The move is probably not everything you had expected it or hoped it to be. Where do you go from there? Where do you go in having to train in that environment on a day-to-day?
So in Munich, it was a little bit different. I had a knee injury, and I started more or less, to get some minutes at the second team. But at United, it was different. I came literally on my birthday to the old training facilities, and the guy was standing in front of the door and told me I'm not allowed to enter the dressing room. So for the first team. And I said, okay, but what should I do? Yeah, you train with the under 19 team. So I said, okay, where do I change? At the under 19 dressing room. I said, all right, can you bring my boots there? So that was more or less the start. So I trained there, and then later on, I obviously tried to catch Mourinho and to talk about what's going on. At the end of the day, it's a coach who has to tell the player, look, we have different players. And the story behind was actually that the year before, I got twice injured at United on my ligament. And after the first injury, I got treated by the United staff medical department. And it wasn't really, in my eyes, the best medical department back in the days. So I asked Louis van Gaal, can I, after I got injured and again, same, I asked if I can get injured to my rehab in Munich with my doctor, which I know. And there were the Euros coming up, so I needed to be fit in 3 months, more or less. So I said, yes, no problem. Just come by on the weekends and have a good contact with the doctor and watch the games. I did exactly what he did, but the problem was Louis van Gaal got sacked after the season. So the board obviously had a different opinion about me. So in the end, Mourinho sent me to the youth team. I was training on my own, literally. Like I was training, I don't know, 1.5 hours before the first team was training on my own with a fitness coach for 6-7 weeks for sure.
That's brutal.
And
Wow.
then one day Mourinho came to me and he said, hey, I made a mistake, you can join the first team again. So, and then I was training with the first team, and actually I always believed in myself that I'm maybe better than the other player, you know. So
Sure.
and I could see that in training. You know, when you play training, you see who's good and who's not good, and who's better or not. So I could see that. But I always had in my head, I want to play again for United. I want to play at the Old Trafford. It's really something very special to play for United in the Old Trafford. Like with the supporters, they always welcomed me very well, and I had a good relationship to them. So I did actually play a little bit, and Mourinho promised me to play more minutes, but. You know what was strange was for me the feeling when I saw board members. And my heart really was not 100% connected then. So I lost a little bit this love, even if I followed the club and I enjoyed the time there, but it was not 100% there. So and I decided to do something else.
So he's always regarded as a player's coach. Give us something that only a former player of Jose Mourinho would be able to tell us. What's your best Mourinho story?
The best. So I must say, really, it was great to watch him because I see he can really motivate the players. They really would die for him. So you could see that he's a cool guy. I liked his humor a lot. But one story we were facing West Ham United at home, so we had a team meeting. He literally stands just wearing his socks, maybe slippers, has a laptop, and he's going through the formations. And then he said, "Look, guys, please do not make any stupid fouls around our own box because they have a very good free kick taker, Payet. You remember?
Yep.
And they have a lot of tall." Players who can head the ball really well, like Alan Gordon. So, and then he said, and also one thing, please do not talk to the referee. And he was like this fatty guy, and he was speaking in Portuguese to one of his assistants, and the guy told him the name. And he said, yes, exactly. Do not please talk to this guy. He's not a good referee. Anyway, I was sitting on a bench. I sit next to Wayne Rooney. Game starts. And Ashley Young was next to me. Game starts after 5 minutes. Phil Jones tackles a guy completely unnecessary around the box. Mourinho was waving his hand. Payet kicks the free kick, header 1-0 for West Ham United. The next 5 minutes, small decisions from the referee were against United. And Mourinho was talking to the referee. In minute 15, the referee comes out and say, "Mourinho, bench." And he sent him off the field. So they were the first 50 minutes of the game, and I was sitting next to Wayne Rooney and Ashley Young, and I was like, I had to hold my hands because this was like so funny to watch. Me as a German,
out, right?
Yeah, me as a German, you're disciplined. They're like, and this happened in 50 minutes. What he said happened, and all gone.
Oh, man, that must have been amazing to play for that guy, Basti. We'll get you out of here pretty quickly on this. I wanted to just ask you really quickly about. I saw an article. I did a little research on you because when you came to the Fire, you were this extremely buttoned up, cultured, classy gentleman. But back in the day when I used to watch you play with Germany, you were a little bit of this like badass winger with crazy hair. Like I admired you. Were like, you had like kind of the Beckham going on. You had different hairstyles. Maybe you had a rat tail. Apparently, Angela Merkel came out and she had to tell you, I don't know, maybe it was after the Euros in 2008 or something. She was saying you were a little bit of a bad boy and you were the face of German soccer and you had to calm down. I'm just curious how that relationship was and what she was talking about when she said that.
First of all, to my dress code, I remember the first day Anna and I, we were walking at Oak Beach, Chicago, dressed up like shirts and everything, and I looked around and everyone was wearing like the cool stuff. Like I was like, Anna, we have to change our cupboard. So we bought Lululemon and that stuff. But anyway, Angela Merkel, yeah, I had actually 2008 the tournament in Germany. We had a second game. I got a red card against Croatia. And then we played against Austria, which were the host, and it was Austria-Germany is a big rivalry. And in halftime, I was standing next to Angela Merkel, and she was telling me like, "Hey, you're a little bit bad guy here," and I said, "Yes, but I will do my best." So anyway, I always had when she was visiting us, and I know her since 2005 or 6. So our relationship, like, until 2014, 16, more or less, she was always visiting us in a hotel and something, and we were always sitting together. It was very interesting to listen to her. And I remember also that she said, "Look, whenever you're in Berlin, just come by and visit me." So Anna and I, one day, we were in Berlin, we had to do something, and we sent her an email, and she said, "Okay, just pass by." And we went to her office, and she showed us every secret drawer, and it was amazing. And it was something very special.
Oh, man, that's amazing. Basti, we got to get you out here on a few fun things where we know that your time is precious. All right, we got some fun things coming up for you. I got a quick hit. You have to choose to eliminate one thing that you can't do again for the rest of your life. Skiing, which you were an amazing downhill skier apparently, or golf. Pick one, you can't do it for the rest of your life.
Golf.
Easy.
That was easy.
Do you want to let us know how good of a skier you were and why you chose soccer over skiing?
My father was a skiing racer, so I grew up like literally very close to the mountains in Austria. I love the food, the sweet dumplings. I don't know if you know that. You probably don't know this. It's called Germknödel dumplings. That's why my calves are so big, Alan.
That's the secret.
Yes, that's the secret behind it.
That's
Don't
the
go into the
secret.
gym.
Unbelievable.
There's also like something like it's like a cutted pancake. It's called Kaiserschmarrn, and I would never ever put golf in front of this kind of food. No chance.
Wait a minute. You haven't even mentioned skiing. You just mentioned food. What do you like about skiing? That's all you like is the food.
It's the food, yes, of course. Between the two runs, you should ask your guy Bodie Miller. I mean, he knows.
That's
But
It's either dumplings or hot dogs on the golf course. I can see why you're going skiing.
Well,
I love it. All right, Statman Jack, Basti, Statman Jack is going to screen share and run a video for you, and I want your reaction to the video.
Okay.
Well, most of my life at the moment is playing with my husband. Actually, he's very keen to beat me, which he hasn't succeeded yet. But
that is your wife talking about you guys playing tennis together. She's obviously former #1 tennis player in the world, and I know that you're a very competitive guy. Do you care to respond to that? Have you never beat her?
I never beat her on a tennis court, but I made already one ace. That was huge for me, a huge moment in my tennis career. But the thing is, like, whenever people ask me about how is it, like, I said, like, yeah, I lose 6-4 or 6-3, but they never know that I'm always leading 30 love. I'm always had 30 love. But there's one thing, and that's why I was a little bit disappointed when Ana was pregnant again. When you want to get fit and you want to lose some weight, the best thing to do is playing tennis against someone who knows how to play tennis, because every ball comes back and she lets me run left, right. She does whatever she wants with me. And after 1 hour, it's like I lost 6-1 or whatever. And my breath is really gone. I sweat huge. And the worst thing is then I ask her, okay, Anna, tell me, 80%, 70%, how much was it now? And she said, maybe 30, maybe 20, something like that. And she walks off to the gym and does some running. That's really frustrating. Yeah,
that's incredible, man.
But you're all very invited to play once against her to see it how it is, because
I would love to. You invite me to your place in Mallorca, buddy. I'll show up. All right, Basti, let's get you out on this last thing. We're going to show you 4 different pictures, and obviously the people watching this on YouTube will be able to see them, but the people listening on the streaming platforms won't. So I want you to describe every picture that you see, and then I want you to pick your favorite picture out of the 4.
Well, that's very easy. That's my wife, Ana.
Okay, next.
Yeah, actually, Rio 2014, that was my best game which I ever had played in soccer.
So that's you winning the World
just
Cup?
because you guys won?
Just a casual World Cup?
Yeah, timing to play the best game was all right.
Okay, next one.
That's, yeah. To make it short, chasing this trophy in 4 years, 3 times reached the finals, played the final against Borussia Dortmund. If we would have lost that game, our generation would have gone down the hill, but we made it.
So that's you winning the Champions League?
Yes, 2013.
Okay, and now the last picture, and then you describe it and choose your favorite.
He's my favorite all time.
What is the picture? What is the picture?
I remember the day very well. It was hilarious. I thought I have seen a lot in England at Manchester United with Wayne Rooney and everyone there, but Alan, you topped it.
Alan Gordon naked with a shoe and some darts.
Hey, Basti, I do mortgage lending now. So if you need another house, if you need a 5th house, just call me. I'll hook you up with some financing. But this is my business card that I hand out to people. It does very, very well.
Oh, man. Hey, Basti, you've been really gracious and generous with your time. From all of us at this little small upstart podcast called Major League Journeymen, we really, really appreciate you coming on here and regaling us with stories of your time in MLS and in Europe. You're a gentleman, and I hope to get an invite out to Mallorca soon. Don't worry, I won't bring Gordo. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, we love you, pal. Thanks for spending some time.
You're the man, Basti.